The temple stood at the edge of the world, where the mountains kissed the sky and the mist swallowed all sound. The bells rang only for the dead, their chimes drifting over the valley like forgotten prayers. Shi Yuan, once a man of the world, had long abandoned his name, his past, his desires. Now, he lived in quiet devotion, tending to the incense and lanterns, whispering sutras to those who no longer had voices. One evening, beneath the swollen glow of a ghost moon, he found her. She stood beneath the cypress tree, wrapped in white silk, the hem of her wedding robe trailing over the mossy ground. A veil concealed her face, yet the wind carried the faintest scent of plum blossoms, sweet and sorrowful. The air grew colder, the temple's lanterns flickering despite the stillness of the night. "Who are you?" Shi Yuan asked, though he already knew. She lifted her head. From beneath the veil, a voice like distant rain murmured, "A bride." He had heard of her before. The villagers whispered of a woman who died on her wedding night, her groom never arriving, her soul left to wander in mourning. Some claimed they had seen her standing on the riverbank, watching the water as if waiting for a boat that would never come. Others said she wept beneath the temple eaves, calling for a love lost to time. But none had dared to speak to her. Shi Yuan should have left. He should have turned back, lowered his gaze, and prayed for her soul's passage. But something about the quiet weight of her grief held him still. "You have waited long," he said at last. "Too long," she whispered. A single breath of wind moved between them, rustling the golden leaves that had begun to fall from the cypress tree. The temple bell rang once, low and mournful. And then she was gone. She returned the next night, and the night after. Each time, she came in silence, her veil untouched, her hands folded before her. Shi Yuan did not speak at first, only watching from beneath the lantern's glow. But on the third night, as the first frost of autumn kissed the earth, he broke the stillness. "Tell me your name." She hesitated. Then, soft as a sigh, she spoke. "Xia Rui." A name that had once belonged to the living. A name carried on the wind, lost and forgotten. "Why do you remain?" he asked. She did not answer. Instead, she turned, walking toward the temple's edge, where the mist curled over the valley. He followed, his steps silent as falling petals. When she reached the stone railing, she reached out, fingers tracing the worn grooves as if recalling something distant, something unreachable. "He never came," she murmured, almost to herself. "I waited until the candles burned to their wicks, until the petals withered in my hair. I waited until my breath faded, and still, he did not come." Shi Yuan said nothing. What words could mend a grief that had lingered beyond life itself? Xia Rui turned to him then. Though the veil still hid her face, he felt the weight of her gaze, the silent plea within it. "Do the dead dream, Master Monk?" He had no answer. But that night, beneath the pale light of the lanterns, he listened. She spoke of her past, not of her death, but of her life. Of the river she used to sit by as a child, feet dipped in the water. Of the mother who brushed her hair, humming an old lullaby. Of the betrothal she had once welcomed, the love she had foolishly believed in. And when the dawn crept over the horizon, she was gone. Yet her presence lingered, like the last notes of a song. Night after night, she returned. Xia Rui told her stories. Shi Yuan, in turn, spoke of sutras and the path of detachment, of how all suffering could be released with enough time and faith. "And yet you suffer still," she said one evening, her voice laced with something unreadable. Why do you remain here, monk, if you seek to sever all ties? He had no answer. Perhaps it was because, in all his years within the temple, no prayer had ever felt as real as the sorrow in her voice. No silence had ever felt as full as the ones they shared. Perhaps it was because, in listening to her, he had begun to hear the quiet longing in his own heart, one he had buried long ago, beneath robes and vows. But the dead do not belong to the living, and Xia Rui was fading. He saw it in the way her figure grew paler with each passing night, her voice quieter, her presence lighter than mist. She was slipping away, the years finally pulling her toward the void where all forgotten souls must go. On the last night, she stood at the temple gates, where the lanterns burned the brightest. I do not want to go, she confessed, her fingers clutching the folds of her sleeves. But the night grows thin, and soon there will be no place left for me. The words left him before he could stop them. Stay. She lifted her head. The wind stirred, catching the edge of her veil. For the first time, it slipped away. Beneath it was a face not of horror, nor decay, but of quiet sorrow. A woman who had spent too long waiting, a woman who had never been allowed to live. And Shi Yuan, for the first time, saw not a ghost, but a girl. A girl who had once laughed, once hoped, once loved. I cannot stay, she whispered, and this time he heard the ache in her voice. Not unless someone calls me back. A prayer, a vow, a tether to keep her from the dark. Shi Yuan hesitated. To call her back was to break his vows, to step beyond the path he had sworn to follow. It was to surrender to the one thing he had spent his life denying: attachment, longing, love. But love, he realized, was not a chain. It was not suffering. It was the only thing that had ever made him feel real. Stepping forward, he raised a hand, gently touching her face. For the first time, her skin was warm. For the first time, she was no longer a ghost. Xia Rui, he murmured, come back. The wind stilled. The lanterns flickered. The mist around them faded like a dream at dawn. And when he opened his eyes, she was there, alive, whole. They left the temple together, stepping beyond the gates, beyond the past, beyond the lives they once thought they were meant to live. For love, after all, is the only vow that truly matters. This tale teaches us that love, in its purest form, transcends all boundaries, whether of life, death, or duty. Shi Yuan's journey is one of self-discovery, revealing that attachment, though often feared, is what truly makes us human. In choosing to embrace his own longing, he not only frees Xia Rui from her endless waiting, but also releases himself from the illusion that detachment brings peace. Their story is a powerful reminder that love, though it makes us vulnerable, is the force that heals, connects, and ultimately guides us beyond the past toward true freedom.